Linux OTC, welcome to episode 75. I'm not Bill, again, as is probably quite obvious.
I'm Charlie.
And I'm Eric.
I'm Majid, just in case anybody didn't catch that. You know, your resident anesthesiologist. You know,
Sorry, don't get confused.
Yes. I mean, you know, I mean, you would get confused with all the fantastic looking chaps that are on this channel. I mean, you know,
That's true.
Yeah, exactly.
If you can see us.
Yeah, if you can see us. I mean,
or maybe if you can.
Yeah,
we're not sure.
Maybe if you can't see us, then we're more attractive. Because you don't know what you don't know.
Imagine all right, picture this, if you will. 3 of the most gorgeous hosts you've ever thought of. And there you go.
Exactly.
2 striking, dashing Brits and 1 ruggedly handsome American.
Yeah, ruggedly handsome. Florida, but not Florida man.
That's right. You got it. Now that we've got the stage set, we can move forward.
This is an interesting question. I mean, I'm sure we've all come across the concept of vibe coding, you know, with AI making, you know, code and software and stuff like that. Has anybody actually tried it out? Seen how well it works or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I have a little, in the sense that I've asked it to do small things. Like I had it help me create a couple of bash scripts for like I wanted to toggle my touchpad on a system where there wasn't like an inbuilt function to do it. There were commands to do it, but there wasn't like a keyboard shortcut or something like that. So I wanted a script to be able to just do that, right? And I had the constituent pieces. I kind of understood the commands that I'd have to run. I just didn't really know bash scripting well enough to be able to put it together in like a clean way. Right. I was doing it and it would work, but it was also kind of clunky. And I just thought, well, okay, if I asked AI to do it, how would it do it? Right. So it was more or less like how would this look side by side? And so I really liked the way it put it together, but I also asked 3 different AIs and got 3 different answers.
Yeah.
You know, that just tells you the malleability of like code and the ability to, you know, approach a problem from different angles. So,
yeah, I mean, that's interesting, actually.
For self-hosting. So if I want to so I'm using ZimaOS, which is basically the same as Casa OS, but it's just got the Debian built into it. And it's so much easier than faffing around looking for the Docker compose. I just asked, in this case, I've been using Claude recently, and it's incredible, you know. I mean, it does sometimes go completely wrong. But if I want to add an extra this and this, and it asks me what's wrong, if it's not starting the container, it says go into logs, and I just copy the whole log, paste, and then it tells me where the problem was. I mean, it just blows my mind every day.
Yeah,
so I put in this. It's like 100 different lines of errors on the from the log, and it just goes through it and says, this is the problem, fixes it, tells me what to do, and then away it goes. And I'm like, my God, now it starts.
Charlie, you might just want to bring your volume up a little bit. You're a bit quiet.
Have I gone quiet now?
Yeah. But yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean.
Because better?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
that's a lot better. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Because I've done the same. Again, with bash scripts, because I'm not that great. And, you know, again, almost exactly the same, actually. Self-hosting, you know, making Docker Compose, getting the Jellyfin server up and running, and Audiobookshelf and all this kind of stuff. And I can just do, as you say, you know, you can just kind of, you know, copy paste what's wrong here, and it will tell you what's wrong and tell you what to. Now, the thing that I found odd, though, is that sometimes you would do exactly what it tells you to do, and another error would come up. And then you would tell, okay, well, how do I fix this then? And they go, oh, no, you actually need to do it this way. And I found that a little bit odd, because I thought to myself, I mean, how did it make a mistake in the code? Because, you know, and I don't know whether it was just because of the AI I was using, because I think I was using Gemini. I think I was using Gemini. So I don't know whether it's something to do with that. I mean, I know people say things like Claude is supposed to be better with coding and stuff like that, and things. So and I know they each have their strengths and their weaknesses. But it did kind of take me back a little. And I went, wait a minute, this is supposed to be, as straightforward a question you can ask a computer, right? Check this code.
I think it comes down to a lot of dependencies of like, what's the environment you're in, what's the specific use case, like, and that's where, and so here's just as an anecdotal thing. My wife does graphic design. She's a graphic illustrator designer. And I've told her for years that the strength she brings, or the real value of her service, is 10% the design part and 90% the consultation with the customer, because the customer rarely knows what they want. They think they do, but they don't really understand the importance of having, a design that's going to look right, printed on a t-shirt and on the screen. And you know what I mean? There's all these different potential uses for it. And someone who understands those things brings to bear all of that knowledge and asks the right questions. They gather the information that's needed to produce the quality result at the end. Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what maybe is happening whenever you go to the AI is you're giving it a sort of a vague question, right? The prompt itself is probably, and I'm not saying like, oh, you're holding it wrong, because it is possible that it's just doing it wrong. But likely, and something that I've started to realize, is the more specific I am, to a degree, like, you don't have to be ridiculous about it, but the more specific I am in my intention, in what it is that I actually want the thing to do, right? Then I tend to get better results. And what it means is you have to put a little more thought into what it is you want, right? And that's always the hard part, because we want things in a vague way, but we don't necessarily know exactly what it is we want. And that's where vibe coding comes in, is that as a complete novice, or, even like an amateur where you have a little bit of knowledge, you don't know necessarily what to prompt, because you just don't know. Right. And so the vibe part of it is, I'm going to ask you something. You're going to give me a result. I'm going to try to use that result. And then I'm going to run into another issue because I didn't think about that. And now I'm going to say, oh, wait a minute. No. I need that first thing. But then, okay, you have to also consider this. Okay, here's my next result. So vibe coding is very much like a back and forth thing until you arrive at the thing you actually want.
Are you communicating with it, with typing it, or are you talking to it?
Oh, typing. Yeah, I can never talk.
So that's the thing about the oral communication with it. That's, for me, blows my mind. I mean, when you're typing, you limit things and you go back and edit. Whereas when you're talking, you just waffle on. I mean, I can waffle on. I want this, and I can spend like a few minutes, which would be the same for me typing. I can give more information, and it will just. And I go, oh no, but also do this. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention and it just takes all this, rearranges it, and makes it like understands it.
Yeah. So I remember.
And then it produces from that, which I could never do typing.
Yeah. So if I remember correctly, in Android 17. The Google have got a feature called Google Rambler, where basically it's speech to text, but you don't have to literally just speak to text. You just keep talking, and then if you go off on a tangent or whatever, the AI will know what bits are relevant to the message that you actually want to put, and what bits are, I don't know, you telling someone to shut up in the meantime. Do you know what I mean? Just having having a natural
like that. They're using something like that with medical charting.
Yes.
Where you can have a conversation with a patient and the AI is pulling out the relevant bits that you need to create a differential diagnosis, or,
Yeah, so we have that. We have that. I think it's called Clear Notes or something like that, where you will have a consultation. The AI will then analyze that and come up with a letter saying that, so-and-so person with these medical problems, this, and a discussion was had about what treatment modalities to go, and the decision was made to go for this treatment, review again in 6 weeks' time. It will do the entire thing for you. I mean, I have a friend in project management, and one of the things he says, for him anyway, as a game changer, is the fact of getting AI to not just transcribe, but summarize meetings. Transcription, okay,
Yeah.
we've been doing transcription for a while now, but the ability for it to listen and come up and understand what the synopsis and the outcomes and the steps moving forward will be without you actually having to he says like it saves him at least an hour after every meeting, and he normally has to kind of write it all down as to what was decided and all this kind of stuff. He goes, what, that hour and a half, I don't have that anymore, and I can be more productive in other
Which one is he
manners.
using? Is it Claude?
I have no idea. I didn't ask which one it was he was using. I have a
techniques.
feeling it might have been Copilot, but don't quote me on that. Because one thing I've noticed, I know that, there's been a lot of stuff talked about how Copilot has been a, well, yeah, I'm just going to say,
Right.
yeah, it's been a failure. I mean, it's got 3% market share from amongst the AIs, if you're going to kind of, now admittedly, how valid are those numbers? Don't know. But, but the amount of shoehorning that Microsoft has done, with Copilot buttons and Copilot in Office and renaming Office Copilot or something crap like that, it's the amount of stuff that they've done to then end up with 3% market share when it's on so many different computers is a bit rubbish. But what I have noticed is that they, as per usual, I suppose, they're looking into corporate. So, whenever we end up having any kind of any kind of AI stuff in the hospital, it seems to be Copilot based. Whenever you recently, when my son was going to check out university courses, and they talked about AI and said, look, we know people are using AI. We're going to teach you how to use it well, properly. You guys have probably used ChatGPT. We've got Copilot. We'll show how you can use it to help with because he's into business and ad marketing and stuff like this. That's what he wants to study. We can tell you, the prompts that you need to put in to get the projects that you want off the ground and whatever. So I wouldn't be, it's a very long-winded way of me saying that I think it might well be Copilot. I've got to be honest, actually, in of itself, it's not that bad, Copilot. I think it's, if I haven't used it often, I'll be honest with you, but when I do, seems to be fine. I just find it a bit weird using Microsoft. I mean,
I have to go for I've got a red mark on my back, so I've got to go and have it, digitally photographed and then uploaded to AI. But I don't want it to be sent to Copilot. I don't want my mole in the Microsoft system. I mean, I'm going to have to ask about this because I'm going on Monday for it, and I don't want to. I mean, they must.
I mean, they will ask
you.
Yeah, it will be part of the consent. Be part of the consent.
There's a consent. But I just had a visit last week, and the doctor said very clearly, and she had to take out her phone and set it down in front of me. So I saw her doing it. It wasn't like she wasn't. Although I've been to a podiatrist where it was built into the room, there were microphones in the room itself. But yeah, there's always a consent. They're going to say
there will be a consent.
The NHS may be slightly less consenting.
Actually,
I've never asked consent for anything of my documentation. Or what they do is they send you this rather long thing and ask you to click yes. I mean,
you know what you should do
when
then?
You go in, you're saying, like, we're about to have an operation. You're about to die now, but we want to be able to send all your documentation, all your analysis, everything to AI. But we don't have to go ahead with the operation if you say no. I mean, what the hell are you going to say?
No, okay. to be fair,
first of all, they're not going to do that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to push back on that one because because I have seen the obsession, the frankly too much obsession that we have in the NHS for consent. There are times when genuinely you'll be there and we had a guy, I still remember this. It was going to be a difficult procedure. We'd go with great difficulty. We'd got him off to sleep and, managed to maintain his airway. It wasn't a fun anesthetic, I'll be honest with you. And then somebody came up and said, oh, there's a problem with the consent form. We need to wake this guy up. And I'm like, are you crazy? Do you have any idea how difficult it has been to get this guy asleep safely without him dying? Which he almost went to a cardiac arrest as we induced anesthesia. I'm sorry, I am not waking this guy up. And they're like, oh, but you know, this is against policy and this, that, and the other. And it was like, okay, fine. You can call whoever you want. And it went all the way up to the medical director, who had to then come and make put a thing in the notes to say, for patient best interest, we are not going to follow policy, which would be to wake him up, to ask him, and then put him back to sleep again.
Okay.
So
I shall give after tomorrow or Monday. I shall let you know if they did ask me.
Yeah, no, I mean, you should always ask anyway, and you know, no, and actually, we have this thing now called, what's it called? It's called the Montgomery Rule, because it's after a case that happened in Scotland with someone called Montgomery, hence the name, where not only does consent have to include everything that it should, it has to be pitched at a level which is appropriate to the person you're talking to. So, for example, you know, if you've got someone who is, say, medical, or someone who you have to go into the nomenclature more and say, okay, so the chances of this are this, and this, right? Because the Montgomery thing was about a midwife who got admitted and had some problems with her labor, and afterwards she was like, I was a midwife. If somebody had explained it to me that the chances of this would have been this, I would have understood that better than a generic kind of, you know, the chances of death are 2% or something like that, or the chances of you actually having hemorrhagic shock and an emergency hysterectomy requiring a massive blood transfusion and transfusion related injury. She would have understood all of that because she was a midwife. Do you see what I mean? So yes, it'll be interesting. Yeah, I mean, you know, it'll be fascinating to know. There is one point that I will kind of grant, which is that sorry, with the move to digitalizing, shall we say, patient records, I do worry about the safety of that infrastructure, because, well, I think, I don't know, you guys might not have heard it over in the States, but I don't know, you must have heard, Charlie, about the people that got suspended from a NHS trust because they were checking up the records of there'd been a mass stabbing, and so people were like, who worked at that hospital where the patient...
They had no reason.
Yeah, they had no reason to look at those records, just that they were curious. And, you know, I wonder what happened. And I think something like 40 people ended up getting suspended or something like that, you know. And so that aspect of it does worry me. You know, you get all these patient charts that can be printed out or whatever, and then they get left in the Costa or the coffee shop
Everybody finds loopholes. It's like in America, you know. I mean, you're not allowed to, do surveillance on people unless you have a warrant. But of course, data collection is happening all the time, so the government can bypass direct data, surveillance, and go straight to the data collection companies and get the information direct from there. So there's always a way around things to bypass the actual laws and everything. I am a bit untrusting in those things.
Oh, no, I mean, I completely I agree with you that, you know, we have to have a healthy skepticism, partly because of the incompetence, unfortunately, that most governments seem to have when it comes to this stuff. I don't know if it was when you were, if it was there when you were in India, Charlie, but, you know, there's a massive thing in India now of, you know, online payments and, you know, using QR codes and all this kind of money getting directly out, you know, complete cashless society in certain places. If you want to buy stuff with cash, you can't. They turn and they say, oh, can you scan the QR code, Paytm, phone pay, this, that, and the other. And all of that is monitored, because it's all, you know, you're linking your personal bank account to these third parties through the unified payments infrastructure, which is technically an open source project, but an open source project by the Hindu nationalist Indian government. I wonder how free and secure that's going to be. Anyway, move that to the side. And, you know, the amount of surveillance that's just happening, you know, kind of ambient surveillance, if you know what I mean. It's, you know, it does shock me.
Yeah. Okay. But but still, you know, you don't want to be everything you watch. I don't want to ask AI about my spot on my back, and then next time I go to get health insurance, let's say, or travel insurance, it says, or I make a claim, it says, well, you didn't mention about the spot on your back, which we know about because of the AI, and this is where it's going at.
Yeah, I mean, I remember. I think we've talked about this before, Eric, haven't we? When I kind of just said, you know, are we just all pissing in the wind? Do you know what I mean? We're trying, as the 1%, the sliver of the sliver, fraction of the fraction, trying to keep data hygiene and, keep ourselves vaguely private. And then you've got the great unwashed masses, 98% of the population, who are like, they seem to have no qualms in giving away all of their data. They don't even know that they've given away the data. It's just, and then you just think to yourself,
crazy, because on Facebook, the stuff, even relatives, the things they put on there now is just, and they're saying, oh, well, it doesn't matter, it's only on Facebook. But
no.
AI now will take this and it just creates your whole profile. It was even before AI doing that, but it's just a madhouse now.
I'll tell you something interesting, actually. It's like tangentially related to what we're talking about. So, about a month or two ago, I saw, as often happens with me, I find a good deal on eBay for some piece of technology. And do I need that piece of technology? Of course I don't. Do I want to buy it? I do. And so, I bought a phone, one of these, one of the folding phones, Oppo Find N5. Now, after I bought it, the guy contacted me, the seller, and said, okay, you do realize that this is the China model, not the international model. Are you happy with that? And I said, yeah, I think I should be all right with that, actually. Do you know what I mean? I thought, yeah, I get it. I can flash Lineage OS or something like that onto it. Anywho, the device arrived. It's like you get what you pay for. I was getting it for literally half price. I think if you were to buy the international version, it's like 1,400 quid. The guy was selling it to me for 600. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, and it turned up and I was like, okay, great. Okay, let's see if I can unlock the bootloader and flash another ROM onto it, No, you can't, because all the Chinese phones are hard locked to get bricked if you try and unlock them, because the companies know that people can buy them cheaply in China and then put the global ROM and then sell it on. So they've stopped that. So I was like, okay, fine. So this is my first time with Android without Google services pre-installed. It was relatively easy to get them on there. If I want, I could get it on through either through the Play Store, as in, you could download the Play Store through Oppo's app market, or you can get an APK or whatever. Anyway, so most of the functionality that I would need in the UK, I was able to get relatively easily. I got Google Play services working. I was able to get all the apps that I want working. I was able to obviously change the languages so that it was no longer in Chinese and English.
You installed all the nice spyware onto your phone.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is that I keep getting notifications coming up saying, so like I'd launch an app and the app would say, this app wants to read your app list, right? And I think to myself, if this is YouTube has never asked me ever about reading my app list, right? And then, I'd install something else. I don't know, I'd install a banking app and it will say, this wants to open this. Do you want to allow it for a week? Do you want to allow it this time? Do you want to allow it for 30 days? I'm like, I've used these apps before on other phones, Western model phones, Google, things. And it just made me think that, ironically, it seems that the Chinese one was flagging up every time that Google's service was getting pinged and because a lot of these things, some of these things would be pre-installed. YouTube's pre-installed, isn't it? So you would never have the situation of installing it and then saying, oh yeah, YouTube can now read all your apps, by the way. And it was just... It seems counterintuitive, isn't it? Because the minute you think of China, you think of surveillance, right? Come on, they're the ones who've taught everyone how to do it, yeah. But here I was with a phone which officially didn't have Google initially, and I was getting more private features. It was just weird.
Well, Google is just... I used to love Google until about 6 months ago, and then I just started to hear about the way that they basically know everything. You cough near that phone, it knows about it. You move the phone, it knows about it. It knows everything that's going on. Incredible. And now that, the European government has tried to stop them from just locking it down and not opening up to third-party app stores. So now they're trying their their trick of making everybody register before they can even create a third-party app store, which is coming about in September. Google, when the moment that company removed "Don't be evil" from their sort of company logo, let's say, we should have seen it coming, because Google wants to know everything you do. The same with Apple. Apple may keep it more within their walled garden, but they know everything that's going on.
Well, interesting, isn't it, that actually if you look at where Apple is making most of its money nowadays, it's, in services. And when you start drilling into what those services are, a lot of it is data broker stuff.
Yeah.
And it's because I remember when I, shameless plug for my podcast, Atypical Doctor podcast, when I had Juan Carlos Bagnell, one of a YouTube creator, does some gadget guy on, and I had this conversation with him, and I said, look, there's this perception that Apple, at least, okay, it's a walled garden, they won't let you do what you want to do with your device, but at least it's a bit more secure and a bit more private. And he went, no, it isn't. And then he kind of went through where he always comes up with receipts, if you know what I mean. And as I said, the thing about services being the major thing, that it's the growth potential for Apple, the data broking, who they're selling things to, the fact that they are in the court documents with their lawsuit against Epic, they literally said, we are making our products worse so that people will spend more money to, upsell or get the extra service on top of that, or pay to not have this limitation. It's all in court documents now. It's all out in the open. And it just, there is I don't know if you, Charlie, if do you remember, there's a band, the Manic Street Preachers? I don't know if you, yeah. So they're one of my favorite bands of all time. They had a song on one of their albums called "Don't Be Evil," and it was inspired by Google. And the lyrics for that are just so prescient now. It was, as I said, it was written 15 years ago. But you don't be evil, just be corporate. All these kinds of things. It's it's a good song as well. It's quite relatively easy to play for me because I'm a crap guitar player, but I do try. So
I love Google. I got because I'm officially a student. Those of you who are just listening to the audio, I'm about 21 and.
Yes, exactly. That those white hairs are there for style, not from age.
That's it. It's fashion had it died.
Yeah.
I am a student, but as a student, you get also free 1 year for 2 gigabytes of data and the AI Pro.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you just follow, there's a way around it. You take a course that gives you the certificate. The certificate gets you that. But anyway, halfway through, I stopped because I just couldn't do it. I stood there at the garage where Google first started. I went to California, went down the back street, took photographs at the place where it all began. But now I would not trust Google with a hair of my information. This company is totally corrupted. The top billionaires in the world are the two of the starters of Google, and they don't even have any input. They just sit back and collect the money from Alphabet. So anything. The whole world has gone mad now. I've lost a bit of track of where we're going with the point.
But the point being that there is so much data surveillance and all this kind of stuff.
I was gonna take this back very far, actually. So
go on then,
Charlie. You had, at the beginning, 15 minutes ago, you had talked about that long agreement that someone sent you, right? And you need to look through it. Well, going back to your point about the log file and looking through the log and giving it to AI and having it pull out. So one of the things that AI in particular is very, very good at is summarizing and pulling out relevant information, especially if you prompt it in a certain way. So in that information, in that text, you can give it to your favorite AI and then give it some gentle prompting like, if I were concerned about my privacy, which I am, what in this text should I be concerned about? And you would be amazed at how perfectly and succinctly it tells you exactly what you want to know and how it understands what privacy concerns might exist and being good about and you could go even further and say, well, tell me why I'd be worried about these things. And so one of my favorite uses of AI is saving me time. And one of the ways that I do that, a couple of them in particular, one is in YouTube. If you've seen, there's that ask function. And what it is it's Gemini. That's why it has the Gemini logo. And one of the things you can do, one of the suggested things you can do is to summarize this video. And basically it takes the transcript of the video and does a summary of it, and even gives you like timestamps so that you can jump through. And if it's a 20-minute video about literally something the creator could have said in 60 seconds or less, I'm not going to give them 20 minutes of my life to get that information. I don't have to anymore because I can just click ask and get the answer I want. Now, yes, that kind of sucks for them, but I don't care. Like, they get my view, I get my information. It's a trade. Like, it works. And the same thing is true
a big
in
question. It's a big question as to be, we're watching videos now, but when is it going to be that conversations, we're so used to having summaries that we're not going to tolerate just making small talk? It's going to be at a point where people will suddenly go like, I'm sorry. I mean, it's already getting there now where people can't concentrate. So you can't really have in-depth conversations anymore. And literally it's going
It depends on what you're, so I'm going to push back on that a little, because I'll say that if I'm conversing with someone, then I am looking for that, right? That's what I want from the exchange. I want to have either an open-ended conversation or I'm discussing something specific. It doesn't matter, but I want that go-between with a human being. When I'm looking for information, when I'm actively asking you a question and you spend 5 minutes just not getting to the point, then yes, I feel like I reserve the right to just kind of say, man, look, I asked you a question. Give me the answer.
Huge thing about AI now, isn't it? It's like this guy has produced a video to make you watch 20 minutes. He's sharing his knowledge. You can now literally go to AI and even bypass him. You don't even have
But he's
to
not.
get to the, you don't even.
That's not what they're doing, though, Charlie. That's not what they're doing. They're creating content to.
They do turn a short bit of information into a whole long
Correct.
process.
Correct. And they know they're doing it. They put the information you want either buried somewhere at the end, or it's a very common thing that television producers, like everybody's been doing that forever. And I feel like I've leveled the playing field because I can now just say, give me this one nugget of information that takes up literally 4 seconds of the video. It's all I want to know. It gives me a timestamp. I can choose to either just read it off the screen or go to that part of the video and watch them speak it. And so for that type of video, like I would never do that with a sci-fi, movie or something. Why would you? Isn't it, because the whole point of it is entertainment. I want to watch every second. Hell, I'm probably going to rewind a couple times to catch things to make sure I got it right. Like,
but I mean,
I also that type of stuff.
It's a crappy movie. I'm also skipping ahead. When it's like,
see, but
it's like quick.
But that's and you have the right to do that.
But it's a crappy movie, though, isn't it?
Click, the sex scene, click.
Right, but the other thing, what is it?
Dragon fruit.
Oh, cool. So, I'm speaking dragon fruit. So the other thing is that I use is there's a summarize with Gemini, I think. Let's see, what's it called? Summarize and translate with Gemini. So you put on this add-on, and it's an extension for Firefox. It's probably on other browsers as well. And you are able to give it a prompt. There's a default one if you want to just use it, but I changed it so that on any web page, especially those, like, think of the worst recipe blog you can think of with like 7 pages of life story when I went to Tuscany and talked to the people that grew the produce. It's like, I don't care about any of that at all because it's just filler nonsense that nobody wants to read. I want the recipe. That's why I'm here.
Yeah. I mean, you see
this
I'm
with 51 years old. I don't care about this stuff. You know what I mean?
Do you know why they do it? I mean,
to annoy me.
Why you've got their
yes, exactly.
It's for SEO.
For clicks.
So
SEO, exactly.
Correct.
So
they do it for clicks. I get that.
This is where the whole conundrum of AI is going, is that, okay, that Marjorie writes her life story about, just to get down to a recipe, because she knows if I do a whole spiel about my life, Google will rank me higher. But now, once she finds out that AI is just answering the question for her, they're taking her information, removing her life story, and just taking the recipe. Now Marjorie isn't going to be putting up that recipe. So
Good point. Good
this is
point.
where we go now, is where the point is that AI, yes, we're all thinking it's fantastic now, and I love AI. I mean, I'm not fighting against it here for certain things, but the big problem is that now it's going to come to a point where a line is drawn, and no more will we get anything fresh. We only get things that AI can think of where they can create. They will create the recipes. They're not going to look at Marjorie, who has actually done the recipe, because Marjorie now has given up. She said, like, well, nobody's coming to my website. Everybody's asking on AI. And this is our big problem at the moment. And that where we're coming to an end. And I also do the same. I don't want to hear her life in Tuscany and everything. I just want to know whether I should put 2 drops of lemon juice in or 3. That's it. But
if Marjorie is listening, I would like to know about your Tuscany trip. You can tell me, okay? It's fine. It's all right.
To be fair, the better ones do give you a jump to recipe button. I give them full credit. Because they understand that there are 2 kinds of people, ones that actually want to hear about Tuscany and ones that just want the recipe, and that's fine. You can cater to both audiences by good design, and I appreciate that.
Because
let's also be very...
Google is still reading through it, still getting it. So, but it's a very good way, isn't it? Because now, like everybody can jump to the recipe, but they're still getting all the Google juice. So it's actually, sorry, go ahead.
You guys are talking too much about food, yeah? I mean, it's making me hungry, this is. Do you know what I mean? Recipes and juice and getting to the meat and potatoes of this. Do you know what I mean?
It's Marjorie's fault, not mine. But
yes.
I was just using her as an example.
Marjorie.
we had Dirty Frag, and now we've got another Dirty something or other that's hit.
I mean, I for a second I thought that, when I saw that come up, I thought, shit, private windows coming to the normal window. Do you know what I mean? If anybody gets that joke, that'd be great. But if not, it's all right. It's fine. Devil's advocate time, though. Okay. Doesn't a project have to have a clear vision of what it wants? And you will always at some point be disagreeing with some of the consumers or the contributors, aren't you? At some point, you do have to have. I'm not saying that they've got it right by any stretch of the imagination, but at some point, you have to have the vision of what is it you want something to look like, and you have to be a little bit obstinate about it as well and say, "Look, I want it this way. This is the way that we want it. If you don't like it, off you go, Sonny Jim." At some point, you do, don't you? I mean, you can't. The world unfortunately isn't so nice that everybody can have whatever they want. Or have I got that wrong?
No. I mean, there is. It's like, this is the product. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. If you don't like it, go somewhere else. Which is very true, But and it's rather because it's open source and a community project. The thing is that the community, I'm sure, if you took a vote as to whether we should have a tray icons, I am pretty sure that 90% of the people would say yes, and we want a tray, because the K status extension is the one that's installed, I think, the most out of all of them. But it's like, this is a good point of discussion, is that you've got a foundation, you've got people running it who have a vision, and then you've got all the users. Who has the right to say where the project should go? Should it be the foundation or should it be the users?
I think there has to be a interplay between all. I mean, I'm going to sound so corporate when I say this, but I do mean it. There has to be an interplay between all the different stakeholders in a project. So that includes the people who make it, but also the people who use it. You're right that in open source, we have put a lot more into what the users want. We have, we generally, there are communities involved, there's forums, there's, foundations, all this kind of stuff, where the idea being that this is a collaborative endeavor, and the users and the contributors and the creators work together. And when they don't, then, it leaves a much worse taste in the mouth compared to, say, if it was Apple or Google or Microsoft, because, hey, big tech, they want to make money. They don't give a shit about you, as Michael Jackson said. Do you know what I mean? They don't really care about us. They just want our money. And I think that's, rather than the thing of itself, it's the expectations that we have. We have an understanding that, because it's open source, it's a collaborative effort. Everybody wants this thing, whatever it is, to succeed. And so much stock is put into the fact that this is a community effort. There's communities involved. There's Linux user groups. There's all sorts of things. There's people like us speaking about Linux and whatever on a podcast. Do you know what I mean? That when they do start acting a bit like big corporations, that it does make it's like the amount of times that I've come on here and ranted about Mozilla. Do you know what I mean? Before, so many of the things that they've done. And I think to myself, would I have ranted about it if it had been Google or Apple or Microsoft? No, because I would have had no expectations of them. I would have expected them to be evil bastards. Do you know what I mean? Or and malice and whatever. But it's when Mozilla do something stupid, I feel it gets to me in my being a bit more, and makes me want to sit and rant.
Well, all I can say now is that I think, ladies and gentlemen, tune into FossNerds, where this conversation will be continued.
Ooh, this sounds interesting.
Yeah, let us know what you think, folks. Email the show at linuxotc.org. We will be back in 2 weeks.